Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today, we are diving into something that affects so many of us, but is honestly really misunderstood. We're talking about the hidden dangers of bed rest. We're going to look at how something that's supposed to heal you can actually cause harm, and most importantly, what we can do to fight back. So, let's just jump right in with a question that kind of feels like it turns everything we know upside down. When is rest actually dangerous? I mean, we're always told, get some rest when we're sick or hurt. But as you're about to see, being too still for too long can open up a whole can of worms. All right, so let's start by digging into this paradox. Before we can really get the dangers, we have to be super clear on what we're even talking about. So what is bed rest, really? So what are we actually talking about when we say bed rest? Well, at its simplest, it's a doctor's order to stay in bed. But here's the thing you have to know. It is not a one-size-fits-all deal. It can be partial, where you can still move around a little, or it can be strict, where you pretty much need help for any movement at all. And that difference, it's absolutely crucial. And that leads us right into the heart of our explainer today, the very real dangers of stillness. See, when the body stays immobile for too long, this whole cascade of complications can kick off. So let's break them down one by one. First up, pressure injuries. You've probably heard of them as bed sores. This is what happens when there's constant pressure on one spot of the body, and it actually cuts off the blood flow to the skin. It's a really painful, direct result of just not moving. Next up are muscles and our joints. You know that old saying, use it or lose it? Well, it is brutally true here. Muscles that aren't being used get weak fast, and the joints can get so stiff they get locked into these things called contractures, which makes any movement super painful and really, really difficult. Now, this one is incredibly serious. When you don't move, blood can start to pool, especially in your legs, and that can lead to blood clots or thrombosis. And if one of those clots breaks free and travels to your lungs or your brain, it can be life-threatening. This is why we have to get that immobility isn't just about feeling stiff, it's a genuine danger. And believe it or not, it doesn't stop there. Think about it. When you're lying flat for days on end, you're just not breathing as deeply. Your lungs don't get to fully expand, and that can let fluid build up, creating the perfect breeding ground for nasty infections like pneumonia. And the impact just ripples outward from there. Physically, all the body systems kind of slow down, which leads to digestive issues, urinary problems, the whole 9 yards. But, the mental toll is just as huge. That feeling of losing your independence, combined with the physical discomfort, it's a recipe for depression. Okay, I know that was a lot of heavy stuff, but here is the good news. We are not helpless here. Not at all. And that brings us to the power of proactive care. This is where we get to fight back against all those complications. So, what's our game plan? Well, the first line of defense is all about these core strategies. And they're pretty simple, really. Things like changing positions often, taking really good care of the skin, encouraging deep breaths and even coughing, and of course, making sure you get enough fluids and good nutrition. These basics make a massive difference. And really, it all boils down to this one simple, powerful idea. The absolute best way to fight the dangers of being still is, well, it's motion. Even the smallest, most intentional movements can be the most powerful medicine there is. So how do we actually administer this medicine? One of the best tools in the toolbox is something called range of motion exercises, or just ROM for short. It's basically a series of gentle movements designed to take your joints through their normal paces to keep them flexible and stop that stiffness from setting in. And the really cool thing about this is how adaptable it is. You've got active ROM, which is when the person can do the movements all on their own. But then you've got passive ROM for when they can't, and a caregiver or a helper gently moves the joints for them. There's even a middle ground called active assistive, where the person does as much as they can and gets a little help. It's all about meeting people where they're at. Which brings us to our next section, tools for independence. And this is so important because we need to stop seeing these devices as a sign of weakness. They're not. They are tools that empower a person, that help them keep their autonomy. And a lot of these tools are surprisingly simple, but they are so effective. We're talking about things like pillows for support, footboards to stop the foot from dropping forward, and even trochanter rolls, which can literally just be a rolled up towel to keep the hips from turning out. Tiny adjustments that make a huge difference in comfort and health. Okay, now let's talk about a real game changer when it comes to empowerment, the trapeze. It sounds like something from a circus, but this simple triangle bar that hangs over the bed can completely change someone's experience. I mean, just think about what this one simple bar allows someone to do. They can use it to shift their own weight, to reposition themselves in bed, to help with their exercises, all while building upper body strength. It gives back a sense of control, and it really reduces the strain on caregivers, too. It's a win-win. And of course, when it is time to get out of bed, there's a whole toolbox of aids to help out. But you gotta pick the right tool for the job, right? A cane is mostly for a little extra balance. A walker gives you way more stability if you're unsteady. Crutches are for when you absolutely cannot put weight on a leg. And a wheelchair, of course, is for folks who aren't able to walk. Each one has a very specific and very important job. Now, this is something we absolutely have to talk about, because with more movement comes the risk of a fall. And knowing what to do in that scary moment is critical, not just for the person falling, but for the helper too. Okay, listen closely because this might be the most important and most counterintuitive thing you hear today. Your gut instinct, your immediate reaction is going to be to try and catch the person, to stop the fall. Do not do that. Trying to fight gravity like that can cause a serious injury to you and to them. So, what's the right move? Your job is to guide the fall, not to stop it. You want to use your own body to kind of brace them and just ease them gently down to the floor. The whole time, your main priority is protecting their head. Once they're safely on the floor, you stay with them and you call for help right away. It's about a controlled landing, not a sudden stop. And you know, that really brings us to the one principle that ties everything we've talked about together. It doesn't matter if you're helping with an exercise, or placing a pillow, or even assisting in a fall. Every single thing you do should be guided by these three words: safety, comfort, and dignity. Because in the end, after looking at all the dangers and all the solutions, it all comes back to a deeply human approach. This isn't just about preventing health problems. It's about empowering people. It's about preserving their dignity. So I'll leave you with this question to think about. How can we help make every single movement a step toward dignity? Thanks for watching.